Welcome to Stay for Dinner, a podcast of cooking, curiosity, and conversation. If you love cooking, hate cooking, you have no idea how you even feel about cooking because you have never tried it before, congratulations, you are in the right place. I am DC Pierson. I am a comedian, an author, and an enthusiastic home cook. My guest on the show today is Susan Song, a sketch comedian from Upright Citizens Brigade Theater. She was on Mod Night. She is fantastic, and she is, right now, as we speak, in quarantine. I know you're saying, oh, well, aren't we all in some form or fashion? But Susan is literally in South Korea in a quote-unquote government facility, which is actually just a nice hotel that the government has rented out near the airport, because she is visiting South Korea. And when you do that, when you come from overseas, they make you be in a hotel for 14 days because they actually have their heads around how to handle COVID. If you don't think so, Google South Korea's numbers on COVID. It's pretty staggering how great they're doing, and all it takes is collective action on behalf of a society willing to do that. It's pretty cool, and she's having an extremely unique experience. I've really enjoyed following Susan on Instagram throughout her experiences with this. She has a series of Instagram stories called Korean Teen, and it's been really, really fascinating. I was really excited to talk to her. She is, when you're listening to this, I believe maybe has just gotten out of quarantine and is busting out, but legally, of quarantine. And it comes across in this interview, and I say it a bunch of times, just very jealous of her experience having a cool time in, a place that is actually taking this thing as seriously as it's demanded. Before we get into that conversation, I will be making Deborah Madison's potato and green chili stew, part of a series on the website Food 52 called Genius Recipes that I really, really like. And this one is going to be a nice, it says, a dinner for easing out of our summer clothes and settling into fall. A one-pot meal, unusual in that it doesn't simmer very long and is easily made vegetarian or vegan, but still hearty enough that it can truly be the only thing you eat and the only pot you dirty tonight. Cool, that sounds like exactly what I want. And so let's get into it. This recipe serves 1 to 2 people. Quick check of my ingredients before we get into it. We are needing 1 or 2 long green chilies or poblano chilies. I actually ended up getting Anaheim chilies because they're a little bit spicier than poblanos, and that's what I want. A tablespoon of sunflower seed oil or other vegetable oil, 1 small onion, half a teaspoon of ground coriander, 1/4 teaspoon of ground cumin. I'll probably use more of both of those. A garlic clove, 1 large russet potato or 5 smaller potatoes. I actually have like 2 kind of medium russet potatoes. Salt and pepper, 1 cup of chicken stock, and then sour cream or Greek yogurt to finish, and chopped cilantro also to finish. And it calls for the green chilies to be roasted and peeled, so I am in the process right now of preheating my oven to roast some chilies. And how I'm going to do that is just place them on a baking sheet, brush them with a little bit of olive oil, or I think pretty much any oil will do, and then roast them for about 20 minutes, and then when they're cool enough to handle, peel the skins off. If you've never done that before, it's really fun. If you do that with super, super hot chilies, you kind of have to worry about your hands getting irritated by I guess it's the capsaicin or whatever it is that makes it super spicy. I don't think we really have to worry about that. Anaheim chilies are not that spicy, and definitely if you're dealing with like poblanos, it's not. I don't think that's really a concern. But you definitely don't want to burn your hands, so you got to wait for them to be cool enough to handle. And right now, I'm just waiting for that oven to preheat. And you could also roast the chilies on a grill. That's really fun. I've done that before. You could do them over an open flame. You would probably want to look at a little tutorial about how to do that, since open flame obviously is a little, it's like, it's fire. And my oven isn't quite preheated yet, but I'm just going to go ahead and throw the chilies in and get started on my mise en place. So the chilies are in. I'm going to set a timer for I'm going to check them after like 15 minutes. I think about 20 minutes is what's expected. And then we are going to dice this onion. Calls for 1 small garlic clove. Not necessarily looking for it to be overwhelmingly garlicky, but I'm going to go with like 3. And mincing them. And then going to peel these potatoes, which, as I've said before, makes me feel like I'm in the Navy, as depicted in like a 50s movie. If you are currently in the Navy and have peeled potatoes before, if that's still a thing, please let me know. And the chilies haven't been in that long. They're smelling really good, so I'm going to check on them and see how they're looking. Ooh, yeah. This oven has a convection setting, so I decided to use that. That's when like it blows air around stuff. And so the outsides of them are already looking really like blistered and nice. I don't know what that means for the insides. They probably can't be too far behind. It's not like they're gigantic or anything. So I'm going to take those out here in a sec. In fact, in a sec is right now, so I can start letting them cool. Beautiful. All right, now the potatoes are peeled. Just gonna give them a chop. It says into 1.5 inch chunks. I think at one point I determined that the like top part of my thumb above the, what would you call it? The top half, the half with the nail on it, is like 1 inch. So it's like for me, it's like 3/4 of a thumb. And frankly, when they say cubes or chunks of a certain length, I never know exactly how to really calculate that, so I'm just going to do my best. I think I will probably, basically you can leave the potatoes in bigger chunks or you can mash them up. I think I will probably go more towards mashing them, primarily because my target audience, i.e. Haley, is not a big fan of big chunks of potatoes, and I think that will be a good, just like a good, nice, like starchy textural thing in the soup, so that's what I'm going to do. Or at least that's what I'm going to plan on doing. Just visually looking at it, this may have ended up being more potato than I needed. Maybe that my interpretation of what a large russet potato meant was off. Because I think it says ultimately, it says a scant pound, and I think what I'm looking at here is probably, without even chopping up half of one of the potatoes, is probably good. So I'm going to save the other part of this potato for later. And other than the chopped cilantro, which we can do later and won't be used until the end, I think that's all of our mise en place steps. So I'm going to go, other than, I guess, finishing off here with the chilies. Let's see if these are cool enough to handle. And I would describe them as more or less cool enough to handle, so I'm going to, skins kind of separate in the roasting process. And so you can just kind of peel them directly off. They get all papery. Ooh, and they look and smell fantastic. There's just kind of not a more beautiful ingredient to work with. Just in terms of like color and smell. These have a nice kind of greenish reddish thing going on. Still a little bit hot, but I'm impatient, so I'm braving it. Then going to transfer them to the cutting board, chop the stems off, and it doesn't say to de-seed them, and if it did, I wouldn't, because supposedly this seeds and ribs are where a lot of the spice comes from, and I want to maintain some of that, so I'm keeping it. So I'm chopping them coarsely as per the first instruction in the ingredient, in the recipe rather. And then I am going to heat the oil in a big pot. That's probably up to temp. And then, as we do at the beginning of like 80% of recipes, I'm gonna put in the onion and Stir it around for a few minutes until it softens. More people should adopt the nomenclature of the onions getting slack. I really like that. In some recipes, say let the onions get slack. If that conjures like bad office or work from home memories in some of you, I apologize. This is the good kind of slack. Keep those moving. And measure out my coriander and cumin. It says half a teaspoon of ground coriander, quarter teaspoon of cumin. So more coriander than cumin, but then other than that, I'm just going to kind of freestyle it. And I think I'm going to do a little more of each than is called for, just a little bit. And I think this is the second soup I've done in a row on the show, but look at the calendar. It's soup time, he said defensively. Onions are getting soft, approaching translucent. I feel good about it, so I am going to throw in it says to throw in the spices and garlic and potatoes all at the same time. I'm going to give the garlic and the spices just a second on their own here to kind of unlock in the oil before we throw in the potatoes, because I anticipate the potatoes will, they're going to kind of, my experience as any guide, like starch everything up. Everything will get really tight and dry and not liquidy, so not the best environment for the spices to kind of contribute their flavor. So just going to give these like a classic little 30 seconds or a minute here. All right, going to throw in the potatoes. Stir them around. And as it says, followed by the chili and a half a teaspoon of salt. The pan is smelling very good. I'm getting some cooked potato smell. Now I'm getting the chili smell. And again, I may have overshot on the potatoes. Here in a minute, I am going to, so this is just cook all this stuff together on its own for a minute. And here in a minute, I'm going to be adding in some chicken stock. And to be honest with you, I'm adding in, or according to the recipe anyway, I'm supposed to add in a cup of chicken stock. And my concern is that it's not going to be enough to really like cover everything. We'll see. I feel like we're headed very much for like soup in a Western territory, which I'm really, really in favor of. Put this in a nice wooden bowl, eat it around a campfire. My friend Dan once pointed out that like just food in a Western always looks so good. And I can't say I disagree. Even the coffee, you know, like in one of those kind of pebbled tin, not decanters exactly, what would you call that? Pots, some kind of pot. It's probably really bad actually, but it looks great. And as predicted, we're like leaching a decent amount of starch into the pot, and that's kind of sticking to the bottom. Not the worst thing in the world, because it's going to get picked up, I think, in a second when I throw the stock in here and get stirred in, be flavorful. But just something to be aware of. Kind of trying to move it around a little bit so it doesn't burn. And if I haven't said it already, you can also use water if you wanted to make this vegan. And obviously then you would just have to sub out the dairy products as well. Or if you just don't have chicken stock around, I'm going to use it because I have it. Some additional flavor, but it's would probably be pretty good either way. Getting some good, it's kind of a breakfasty smell to me, like onions and potatoes. All right, we'll call that good. and add in our 1 cup of broth. Not sure if you heard that because my mic popped off for a second, but that was the broth going in. And it says to bring to a boil. Okay, and ultimately the broth ratio is looking pretty decent. I bet you if I mash up all the potatoes in here, we'll end up with a kind of a, maybe a thicker texture, closer to a stew, I guess. I guess that's the difference between a stew and a soup. Is it? I genuinely don't know. Bring to a boil. It was almost there already. And I'm going to kind of scrape along the bottom just to make sure that we get up any starchy business. And lowering to a simmer. I'm going to put it quite low actually, because I'm about to put the top on, which will keep the heat in there nicely. And then just let that go for, as it says, about 25 minutes until the potatoes are completely softened, at which point we will taste for seasoning. And then maybe mash the potatoes. We'll see how that goes. I don't know what you're going to do with your 25 minutes. I am going to clean up a little bit. All right, my timer just went off, so I am going to open up the pot. It smells very, very good. Again, that kind of smell that I associate a little bit, honestly, with breakfast, like a nice hash. And I stirred the potatoes around just once, just because they weren't entirely submerged. I want to make sure that they were kind of, everything was getting some time in the liquid. And now I'm going to go ahead and mash them up. And I may end up adding some more broth, honestly, if it gets too, thick. They're mashing nicely. Just using like a little slotted spoon. And then once we get, I'm going to taste here too. Taste for seasoning. Yeah, I may just do a little broth or water just to loosen it up a little bit, because it's ending up with a kind of very liquidy mashed potato texture. Again, I think that's a function of I should have done 1 potato. I think I ended up doing closer to 1.5. I'm going to do another 1/2 cup of water to start with. Stir that in. And I'd be lying if I said it was the most pleasing color. Again, I think that's a function of having a lot of potato in there. It's almost like an applesauce look to it. But regardless, I think it's going to be good. We're going to give it a taste. Definitely could use more salt. And it's not super spicy. In fact, not really spicy at all. Didn't expect it to be very spicy. All right, feeling good about it. Gonna plop some Greek yogurt in my case, or it could be creme fraiche, could be sour cream, into 2 bowls. Stir it around, top with a lot of cilantro. And to be honest, if I had it to do over again, I may have, it says basically in the recipe that you can mash some of the potatoes, or all of them if you want to, but if you mash some of them, you kind of get a nice creamy background to the soup, but then you still have those larger chunks. I feel like texture-wise that may have been optimal, but this is fine too. We will enjoy, and hopefully you will enjoy this conversation with Susan Song, live and direct from South Korean quarantine. All right, Susan Song. How I actually normally have been introing the show is by, since I can't actually cook for my guests because it's the pandemic, that I wish that the last thing that they ate was delicious and satisfying. And in your case, I doubly wish that, because I think we should address your where you are right now, what you are doing, or rather not doing. Where are you as we speak?
So I actually am in South Korea. I am living in a government facility. When you arrive in South Korea and you're a short-term visitor, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks in a government facility, which is the Grand Hyatt. So it's not like horrible or anything like that. So I'm staying here for 2 weeks, and they deliver food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me every day. So that's what I've been eating.
And you've been posting about it a ton on your Instagram stories, and it is like
the most compelling thing I've seen. It's the entertainment sensation of fall 2020 for me anyway. It's so interesting and fascinating, and it's kind of like it's such an interesting emotional balance of being really, really, really jealous that you are gonna be like living, at least for a while, in a country that has like figured out COVID way more than we have in terms of like how to manage it. And you're kind of like, but because of that, you're also living inside of part of that management. And part of that is that like the food looks, shall we say, inconsistent.
It's just bad. It's bad. It's not good. And I don't know if it's because like I'm a person that I like love to eat, and I think you're like that too, right? We love food, and I'm a big foodie. So it's like having this now in my life. It's just such a difference because like every day I'm like, oh, what am I going to eat for lunch? Ooh, should I make this or should I go here? It's such an event for me. So that now that it's like not, it's so depressing. But you know what? And now I realize like when I eat and I enjoy it, I'm like, wow, my standards have just gone down so much. So when you're provided like food that's like so bad, I mean, I say bad like relatively, like I get it, like it's still fine and it's still edible and it's still good, you know. But when I'm enjoying this, I'm just like, wow, my standards have just gone down so much. Like if it's like cold, everything is so cold. So yeah, anyways, it's crazy. But you know, like you said, Korea has COVID, I would say pretty under control. They're a country that has a plan, you know, and this is why they do this. And it works. And sometimes I think, is it a little too extreme? Like, I just wish maybe like they would allow us to go outside for 1 hour. I mean, prisons do that. And maybe wear a mask or something and just get some fresh air for our sanity. But I mean, I put myself in this situation, so I knew what I was going into. So it's on me. So whatever. But yeah, and then I was talking to my friend because I was like, after I get out of here, I need to like go get a facial or I need to get a massage. Or I need something like luxurious for myself. But then if for some reason you are in the same location and someone else had COVID and went to that same location and they track you because you have to like scan a QR code before you go into every establishment. If for some reason someone that day had COVID, then I have to go into quarantine again for 2 weeks. And I'm like, it's not worth it. Like, I don't even know if me coming here is worth it. But, so yeah, anyways, they're pretty like, they're pretty strict and they will shame you on TV publicly on the news if for some reason you have COVID. So there's like that shame element.
How do you mean? Like if you have it, if they like, how, what do you mean? What does that look like?
So I think like, for example, like I was talking to my friend because after I'm going to be going to Jeju Island and there are no cases of COVID in Jeju Island. But let's say for some reason I bring COVID to Jeju Island, then the news headline will be American tourist brings COVID to the Jeju Islands along with her friend, Korean national, you know, and they'll say our names, they'll have our pictures. And so it's just like this public shaming type of experience, which I realize nobody wants that. Well, not here. I don't know in the States, but here they care. There's things like they care about.
Yeah, it's
fame and stuff like that.
It's interesting. Like, I mean, it is so, well, I mean, there's so much to unpack and so much that is like fascinating about how the two different countries are dealing with it. And then also just like, I don't know, you know, like we're both LA, you know, comedians and just people, we you know, it's sort of like we're basically coming from like the same control group of like LA based, you know, Upright Citizens Brigade theater comedians. And now it's just so fascinating to talk to somebody who is like in a completely different part of the world, in a completely different approach to this entire thing. And I would love to know, like, what motivated the trip? How long are you planning on being there? Are there things that you're excited about? Are there, like, what is the next couple of months or however long you're planning to be there look like in your head? Like, how is it going? What are you anticipating?
So I'm going to be out here for about 2 months because I was like, okay, how long do I need to be out there in order to make this 2-week quarantine worth it?
Sure.
So like at least like 4 weeks out, outside in the real world. So I'll be here for about 7 months. What motivated me to come out here is kind of like, it's kind of, I have like personal reasons that I had to just kind of get out of LA. And specifically, like, yes, my living situation or whatnot. And also at that time, I'm a freelancer during the day, and that contract ended. So like that ended at the end of September. So the timing for everything and just like kind of just dealing with some personal stuff led me to be like, okay, I need to get out of here. And my only other option was going back home, which is fine too. But then when I go home, I stay with my sister, and she has 3 kids who I love. I love my nephews, but also it's crazy there. And I just kind of needed some personal time by myself kind of thingy. So I was also talking with our friend, or I don't know if you know Vivian. She also does comedy at UCB, and she's a close friend. And she and I have been talking about coming to Korea, even in the beginning of quarantine. But because of the 2-week quarantine, we're like, oh, I don't know. But then as time went on, we found out like, oh, well, she can maybe stay. Excuse me, it's early in the morning. She can maybe stay at her, mom's house or whatnot. So then like the wheels started turning a little bit more. So it kind of just happened. It was kind of like this, you know what, I'm just going to go. I didn't want to fly just because of COVID, but a lot of my doctor friends, I talk to them a lot, and they're like, it's fine. You just got to be safe. And so, yeah, that's kind of why I'm here. I was just trying to like get away for a little bit. Some me time.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. I think I'm definitely sympathetic to that. And like Haley, my wife, who our mutual friend, we talked a bunch about like trying to find things in this time that like we wouldn't be able to do otherwise, or like trying to figure out a way to make this just like not purely being like, well, our lives are at best on pause, so how do we just like tread water and stay in place and just sort of, do you know what I mean? Like how do we like make this into, at the very least, like find some things or some ways to do things that we wouldn't do otherwise. So I think it's cool that it's just sort of like, I don't know. I mean, maybe you would be going to Korea for 2 months right now anyway, but like we just get this messaging that like you're supposed to always be in LA and you're supposed to always be available and you're supposed to, like that there's just this idea that like you sort of have to be perpetually, like we're all firefighters, just like taking naps in the firehouse until the like alarm of fame rings or something. And sort of realizing like, I mean, right now everything is sort of weird and in flux. So I don't know. I just think it's very cool that you're doing it. Or I guess I'm just trying to affirm for you that like, I think it's a cool thing to do. Cause it's like, it's something that I imagine you might not be doing otherwise right now.
Yeah. And you're right. Like as actors, we're just like, it's exhausting. Just like, we're just ready at the, and also we're self-taping so much these days, which is fine. I'm not trying to complain about this industry, but it's a lot of work, and these self-tapes, which normally, like these auditions, which normally would take like less than 5 minutes when we're at the location, are now taking so long. Like commercial auditions, let's say, they're taking sometimes hours for me to do. And if there's like multiple, it's fine. That's what the industry is. And, but sometimes like when we're in it and we're just like, chugging through, and it's like, and I have like this, day job, it's just a lot. And I was just like exhausting myself. And so sometimes we just need a break from the industry to kind of reset and mentally I was just not in the right frame of mind either to be doing all of this. So I was like, I needed a break. And sometimes when we have that, we kind of feed our, I don't know, it sounds like cheesy, but like we feed our soul creatively and in other ways. And it's not just like the daily grind. And so I think that helps as artists, in our work. So yeah, I think sometimes it's good to get away sometimes.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I also feel like in a weird way, I don't know, it feels like there's a couple of like tiers in the capital I industry, so to speak, where it's sort of like for people who sort of like make decisions and get to decide like your script is bad or not. It feels like the timeline is always sort of like, I used to work with two friends of mine in a writing partnership, and we would always perpetually, it was like, it never failed. Like we would be like working really hard on a script for like 2 months, 3 months, whatever. And then like be so excited about it and be like, okay, we're done, and send it to our managers, and then like follow up after a few days, and they wouldn't get back to us. And then finally it would be like a thing where it would be like, oh yeah, didn't you know, like nobody in the industry works on Arbor Day. Like nobody's reading scripts right now. Where you're like, what? Why? I have no idea. Like it would always be like, there would be some film festival going on or some weird thing where everybody's out of town. And you just like, you always feel like, oh, I'm always kind of expected to be on call for whatever I'm like supposed to be around for in case it comes down the pike with no warning. But for whatever reason, another tier of the industry, it sort of is like everybody's always in like Toronto or Cannes or just in like Lake Tahoe, like hanging out. It's sort of, I don't know. Yeah. I think like, it's nice during this time, or probably would have been nice in general. I mean, that's definitely how Haley and I feel, is like, why didn't we go and travel when that was just an option in normal times? But like, just taking it upon yourself, the idea of going like, I get to like go places and like do stuff, and I get to be kind of on my own schedule too. Like I get to preserve that for myself, I think is cool. And I think you're totally right. I think it is like good, it is important to fill that tank, so to speak. It's easy to underrate that. And it's nice to have experiences that aren't just driving to auditions or chatting with other people about like driving to auditions, I think again, it's like the kind of thing where I'm like, I'm basically just a little bit jealous that you're doing what you're doing. So I'm trying to be like, I'm trying to affirm for you, like, man, that's cool. That really, I don't know, it's neat. And especially I think once you're out and about, it's going to be great. But can you take me through like what, for people that have not been following the Korean teen saga on your Instagram, what is like an average day been like for you in the government Hyatt, in the grand government facility?
Hyatt. Yeah. So basically I'm still kind of jet lagged. But I wake up pretty early, like at around 4 or 5 a.m. And that's kind of when I have my quiet time before everything starts to like get crazy around 8. So I don't know what I'm usually doing now. I'm just like posting my stuff at that time. But otherwise, breakfast comes around 7:30, 7 to like 8 or whatnot. And then I eat breakfast, and then I really just, all I do is eat. All I do now is eat, and I eat, and then I post what I'm eating, and then I eat, or like, it's like I eat, record. Honestly, like it's just, now it's turned into this like content factory, and it's driving me crazy because I never post on Instagram. Not really like on my personal, like I do more on my food Instagram, but I just don't. And so I'm not used to doing this, and I don't really know what I'm doing. And so it's just curating and like figuring out what I'm going to, it's just eating, posting. And then like I have not had time to even feel bored throughout the day. Although I'm starting to feel it now. I think it's day 11 or 12. And I'm starting to just kind of like, because I'm trying not to be so attached to my phone. I don't want to like, it's making me a little like antsy and anxious. I don't know why, but sure. I know that's what social media will do to you. But so yesterday I actually just like laid in bed, but I haven't. It's just I wait for breakfast, I wait for lunch, and then I eat it. I'm so hungry. all the time. I have extra food, but I don't eat it because I like variety. So and then in the afternoon is like the longest chunk of time that I have where I'm not doing anything. So, I FaceTime a lot with my friends, and people try to check in on me, and like we do that, and then dinner time. And then usually I'm in bed. I sleep like around 8 or 9 p.m. So I'm not doing anything. But time goes by fast. So
that's interesting. I wonder why do you think that is? Because I would almost assume it's like if every day is the same and there's nothing really to break it up besides meal times and you can't go anywhere, that would almost be like it would kind of crawl by. But that's really interesting. Why do you think that is?
Because I'm chatting with, just posting, I think, has helped me keep busy, because then all these people are commenting on things, and so I'm responding to that, and it's just, I guess, that engagement. I hate even saying these words. It's like, who am I now? But like filming and stuff like that, it's kept me busy, so I guess that's good. But I really wanted to like watch shows and read books and stuff like that. I really wanted to feel bored. So
I wonder, and maybe somebody's already coined a phrase for it, but if someone after this or some social scientist will quantify or name the feeling that I think we've all had in some form, whether it's like at the beginning of like American or basically world, quarantine or lockdown or whatever you call it. And obviously it's taken different forms in different places, but like of just like almost nobody is going out, essential workers and medical workers and people, God bless them, are actually, going and still having that normal routine, but like almost everybody else is working from home at the very beginning or not working or whatever. And just this feeling of like, I should like where you're sort of, I used to get this feeling during summer vacation where at the beginning I'd be like, I'm going to do so much stuff and I'm going to do all these projects and I'm going to do these different things. And then get to the end of it and be like, oh, I just watched Nickelodeon the whole time or something. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
That feeling of like, you have all this angst about like what's happening in the world. I'm so freaked out. But then you also just have a feeling of like, I'm going to do all this stuff. And even if do all this stuff just means literally, like you said, like watch shows or read books or whatever. And then getting to the end of a day or a week or a month of this and realizing like, wait a minute, I didn't really do any of that stuff.
Right. Yeah. What is that?
I know what you mean. I definitely have had that where I'm like, I haven't really done like a big, like watch all of a show or read all of a big book I was never going to read otherwise. Like I haven't, I've gotten some stuff that I wanted to finally like accomplish, but no like big giant projects that I was definitely never going to do otherwise, I
was going to write my screenplay, I brought Save the Cat. I was like, this is it. This is when I'm going to do it. And I haven't even pulled it out of my bag yet. So that's where I'm at. I've shifted careers. I'm now going to do content. YouTube.
I mean, yeah, well, but it's also like, I don't know, this is sort of, this is like a unique thing that's going on. And it's a unique, like, you have a unique, like, angle and technology exists that is allowing you to again engage with people in like a very interesting weird way, and like friends and people want to like keep you company and make sure that you're like not going crazy. I think I guess all that to say, like, I think it's natural to kind of fall down in a little bit of an Instagram or like iPhone in general rabbit hole, being where you are right now, not really having any other like human interaction.
Yeah, such an interesting experience. I honestly I wasn't even going to be posting. I wasn't going to. And so, I guess it's interesting how it all played out. And it is pretty like, it's kind of like a social experience or experiment on what happens to someone. Cause it's pretty crazy. They actually do call me and ask me, how are you doing mentally? And
interesting.
I was like, oh, that's interesting that you asked me that. And every time I go, can I just go downstairs and get a breath of fresh air? Every time they call me, that's my request. And they say, no, sorry. And I go, then I'm not doing well mentally. So. And yesterday I was taking the trash out, and I guess I took it out too late because I can hear them like compile it all in the middle of by the elevator banks. And I was like, oh, can I can I put mine out right now? And they're like, yeah. And then he came towards me, and everyone is wearing a hazmat suit. So I don't know what they look like. And then he came towards me, and I was just like, and I was just like, oh, it's so nice to see somebody. And then he was kind of laughed, and I was just like, bye. Yeah, I need human interaction. So
yeah, so that's the thing, right? Like you literally can only open your door like 4 times a day or so. Like they're like, you're not just supposed to go like roam the halls or anything.
No, only open the door 4 times a day. So crazy.
So what has been like, because the food situation, as you've been documenting, has been like spotty at best. What have been like the highlights? What have been the lowlights? Are there any? It seems like you were saying on your Instagram stories that like some people have accused you of getting like the quarantine food, like Stockholm syndrome, basically, where things that you were initially skeptical of, it seems like now you're like into.
I love it.
Sort of take us through like what's been your experience with breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
So it's really interesting because everything that they give you, it's such a random mix of things. Like, it doesn't really make, like, I don't know how they like were like, oh, you know what? Let's give her like, I don't know, like 2 carbs, like a pancake and like a croissant type of situation. No protein. And canned pineapples would go great with this. No maple syrup with that pancake. Let's do jam. And then like salad, you know what I mean? And it's for breakfast. And it's like, what? Sometimes I think, are they doing like an English breakfast thing with like the sausage and the hash browns and the baked beans? I'm like, okay, I'm feeling like English breakfast here. There really is no rhyme or reason in how they're putting this together. I think it's just like, oh, this food goes into this little cubby hole. That's fine. Let's just do that. But
so you think they're determining it based on like, well, we have these plastic containers, and then they're just doing sort of like square peg and round hole, like what literally fits in this compartment?
Yeah. I don't know, because it doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, I mean, okay, honestly, I know the food is bad, but like it's like, okay, what I really have enjoyed are the cup of noodles, which, because it's just tried and true. A cup of noodles are good. They're cup of noodles, right?
Absolutely.
And then putting in, because I've been making that budae-jjigae, which is like Korean army stew, which is like usually when you go get it at a restaurant, it's in this big big pan, and they have a burner on the table, and it's like a spicy broth with like sausages and ramen, and they'll put Kraft, like is it Kraft cheese or American cheese, you know, the sliced, individually wrapped cheese, and they'll put in baked beans, and it's like this it's like a stew that a lot of the Korean soldiers used to eat in the army base. So it's really good, and it's spicy, and so I try to make my DIY budae-jjigae here with the cup of noodles, because they always give me the cheese and the ham with it. So
nice.
That's been really, really good. That's been my favorite meal. And my friends at home are now getting noodles and also getting cheese and doing that at home. So I've influenced some people to eat my quarantine food back at home.
Absolutely.
What else have I liked? Oh, sorry. I have like really bad acid reflux because of all this fried food. Like, so if I make weird noises, that's what it is. That's just been my favorite. Everything else is cold, so it's hard to enjoy.
And it seems like there seems to be a predominance of corn. And I'm so fascinated by like the role of corn and your experience has like really, really brought this out. But like, I remember, so I've been to South Korea once a few years ago, because my writing partners and I at the time were producing my friend Dan was directing a like travel show with the Gregory brothers from YouTube, who do like auto-tune the news. And they did a bunch of different episodes in a bunch of different Pacific Rim countries. And it was really neat. And they would go and collaborate with local artists. And I got to go when they were filming the South Korea one. And it was the best. I mean, it was really, really cool. I wish I had at the time I did a decent amount of like, I had, we were doing a lot of research about like Korean culture and K-pop and stuff for the episode. I wish I had known more and like eaten more Korean food more widely like beforehand. And then when we were there, like I basically had a lot of Korean barbecue before that and had a lot of Korean barbecue in Korea, and it was phenomenal. Like it was truly the best, but I wish I kind of ate more widely when I was there. But I do remember like we would get sometimes just like catered meals, or somebody would like order some food to, just to be delivered to a shooting location or something. And I remember once the producer ordered like pizza, and he kept being like, you guys are going to want pizza. You're going to want pizza. And we were all kind of like, we want like stuff that we couldn't get at home. And he was like, no, it's cool. It's like, okay, this guy wants pizza, basically is what it boiled down to. But I remember the pizza coming, and like on their sort of just like standard Supreme pizza, they had corn on it. And I do feel like, it was very just like, and it was oddly sweet, which I feel like is another thing that you've kind of called out in some of the videos, as sort of being like, this thing is sweet in a way I didn't expect it to be. And I just think it's very interesting. What do you like? Because I know also like corn cheese is a big thing and is delicious. But like, I wonder like Korean food and corn. Do we have any sense of what's going on there?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I'm wondering if I really don't know the origin of corn in Korean cuisine, like canned corn. Like baked beans and cheese was introduced when American soldiers brought it over. But I mean, corn is just corn. I don't think it's only like an American type thing. But I think Koreans do like their foods. It seems like there's sweetness in a lot of Korean food. Sorry. I mean, not in everything, but it is weird that I'm seeing so much corn randomly throughout. If I'm thinking about like when I go to my favorite Korean restaurants in LA, they don't put corn in everything. You know what I mean? So they must have like this huge can of corn that they may have gotten from Costco or something. And they're like, well, we got to use it up because, they're turning over so much food. They don't want corn to sit. So maybe that's why let's sprinkle a little corn on this Salisbury steak. We got it
open.
Yeah, so it might just be, but you said that it was on the pizza too. It just adds like a little sweetness. It's weird because even I think my grandma used to put corn in our spaghetti. And I do that too, just because it adds a little bit of a sweet kick. So I don't know. Maybe it's a Korean thing. I don't know. I'll be more. Yeah. What were you going to say?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, you were saying.
I was just going to say when I'm out, I'll kind of keep an eye out for that because, I didn't notice it as much before. I only noticed it because people kept mentioning, there's corn and everything. And I was like, you're right.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's like, I guess I did kind of connect it in my head to the sort of American GI thing that is kind of, influenced Korean food. Like, there's something about it that exactly what you said, like, it just makes me imagine a big can. Like they just have a big can of corn that again feels very sort of like mid 20th century, just like this is what we have. It's just like a big pallet of corn.
Right.
But, and it's like cheap calories, I guess. I don't know, and it's cheap. Like it can texturally be kind of good sometimes, like a little pop of corn.
Right.
I don't know. It's really, it is just it's very interesting to me. I don't know. Is there anything else that when you open it up now, you're like, yes, my old friends.
Yeah, they've been doing that. I realize it's been recycled now. So, and now I know what to do. Like, I can't tell you. Like I got those sausages and I found new ways to heat it up. and also when yogurt comes, instead of eating it warm, I put that in the refrigerator and then I wait. And then when a new yogurt comes, I take that old refrigerator out. I mean, I'm putting things in the refrigerator. I'm like learning tips on how to like eat this food better. And then, they're starting to like bring some of the old favorites back, favorites in quotes. So And so like fried rice, I think I had the bland fried rice come again. And then I mixed it all up with kimchi, all the side dishes. And it was excellent. It was excellent. So, because they don't give me condiments, so I don't have ketchup. So when I mix it with the kimchi juices and like the juices of the other banchan, which is the side dishes, it just comes together really nicely. So, yeah. So yeah.
It's so, I don't know, it's neat to me that it's sort of like, in a weird way, it's like, I mean, this is like how cuisine happens. You know what I mean? It's just like people in interesting circumstances using what they have to like make different stuff or even just prepare things in slightly different ways. Like, it's cool to me that it's sort of like you're getting brought like pre-packaged food that's just sort of like ready to eat. But because it's like kind of suboptimal because they're feeding a shit ton of people because everyone that comes to the country has to go into this quarantine, you then, and I'm sure you're not the only one, but like you are, doing stuff to it that is like changing it, which is what cooking is just like doing stuff to edible things to like change them to be more appealing or more whatever. Like, I don't know. That's there's not a question here really other than to say like, that's really cool. I think that's neat.
Yeah. So like, once I realized to mix things up and I'm getting all the different textures, which is what I really like to have when I eat food. It's game changer. And, but you're right. Like, a lot of people, like a lot of cuisine that's popular now, it was something that was like the poor people ate, and now it's, and they mastered it. And like a lot of my favorite foods, like Korean foods, are kind of like gross stuff that, that now are like, I think that like, like for example, like it's really weird, but I really like pork skin barbecue, or even like they make it in a lot of different ways, and that's not like something that the rich people were eating or anything like that. It's like, well, we can't really eat the actual pork meat, so what else can we use on the pork to eat? And now when you go to Korean barbecue places, they have that as an option. So yes, this is kind of how like the creativity, I guess, happens when you're dealing with like not a lot.
Are there other things that you're like, when you have more options, that you're excited to get out and eat, whether it's just like, this is something I already love and I'm excited to have it in Korea, or things that you've never tried before that you're excited to try, or even just like, it's not the hotel food, so I can't wait to eat that?
Yes, I'm excited to have, so actually a lot of people say Korean food is actually better in Koreatown, Los Angeles. Because I think a lot of like the best people in Korea will come and like set up shop in K-Town. So the Korean food in LA is pretty good too. But what I'm excited to have here in Seoul, one of my favorite dishes is this thing called 간장 게장, which is soy sauce marinated crabs. So it's crabs, it's fresh, and they marinate it in like this soy sauce type of marinade for like maybe a week or so. And then, it's so good. And then when you eat it, it just comes out like it's kind of cold. And so it's creamy, and it's really good. So I'm excited to eat that because that's one of my favorite things. And then I'm excited to just have some fresh seafood at Jeju Island. There's like, I don't know if is it called hair? It's like an eel. It's called chango. And they, kind of like the unagi eel that you see at Japanese restaurants. Mm-hmm. So it's that kind of a fish, but it's grilled and they don't have all that sweet sauce on it. So it's like a unagi kind of barbecue type of thing.
Ooh, yum.
Yeah, so I'm excited to have that. A lot of just fresh seafood there. And my cousin who was there recently was like, okay, when you go to Busan, she's like, try the blowfish. It's amazing. But I don't know if I want to do that. But yeah, so she's like telling me what to eat.
Is that, like the type of blowfish that's like poisonous, or, not, obviously they're not serving the poisonous part, but like that, like blowfish is poisonous before it's like prepared, or like, is it literally that?
Yeah, I think they pull out the non-poisonous parts, but I don't think I'm going to take that risk. They also have this duck barbecue stuff that I
Oh,
had a
wow.
long time ago when I was here, and I want to eat that again. So I have to find that.
Oh
Um,
man, I love duck. That sounds
you do?
really
I love duck
cool.
too. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so good. I just remember coming like, I don't know, maybe when I was in the seventh grade or so, and my aunt took me, and it's like spicy, and it was like like a Korean barbecue type of like a spicy mix, and it was really really good. So I want to try that.
Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds tremendous. Yeah, it's funny to me. I feel like I really underappreciated the I don't know. It's sort of funny the things that you just like put together for yourself that should have been completely obvious. But so Haley over quarantine has gotten really into making tteokbokki because we
Oh.
had it
Hmm.
out and really liked it. And she's also a big like texture person. Like that's her favorite thing in food. So like the Korean rice cakes, she just like loves that texture. And so she,
Hmm.
you know, she made it a bunch of times over quarantine. It was like a really nice, like comfort food. And I mean, she literally made it last night, and it's going to be even better now that it's like,
Ooh.
okay, hopefully it's starting to become like fall and it's going to be chilly and whatever.
Right.
But I was just realizing because she got, the first couple times she made it, she just got like basically like anchovy stock to make the like
Yes.
broth that you like start the sauce in, and
Hmm.
like powdered basically whatever. And then this time at the store they had like actual like packets of it's like basically like a bunch of different dried seafood. So it's like dried anchovies and dried shrimp and like everything together in this little packet where it was like, oh,
Oh
this is
yeah.
a really like, we're like leveling up now. This is really
Uh-huh.
great. And when
Is
she
it
was
like in a
making it
little?
last night, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, is it like in a little tea bag?
It's exactly in a little tea bag. So it's a little
Yes.
tea
Yes.
bag full of just like dried tiny things from the sea, basically. Like it's
Hmm.
just like
Hmm.
all of Ariel, the Little Mermaid's friends, or not
Right.
all of
Right.
them, but several of them are like in a small sort of like cheesecloth sachet, as they say.
Yeah.
And I just like I was like smelling it. I like walked out of the bedroom and like the smell hit me, and I was like, oh duh, Korea's an island. You know what I mean? Like I had that moment of being like, oh no shit. Of course that like this is the foundation of so much Korean food is because it's like I thought like, oh, Korea, barbecue, whatever. And then it
Right.
wasn't until that moment that I was like, oh no shit, it's like seafood. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that would be because it's an island. Like that really like
It's
hit me for
yeah.
some reason.
It's like a peninsula, but it does feel like an island just because it's on the north, it's North Korea. So, but yeah,
Oh,
like a lot
duh.
of
Yeah.
people.
Okay. So that goes to show you how much I still have to learn is that I literally just said it's an island 5 times and it's a peninsula.
No,
And
no,
I think
it's
I
fine.
knew
It
that.
no, in Korea, it feels like it, and but it is like surrounded by seafood, and yeah, a lot of people think Korean food is Korean barbecue, but a lot of Korean food is actually very it's a lot of plants and it's a lot of vegetarian type foods, and that's why I don't know. Did you watch that Chef's Table episode with that Korean Buddhist? I don't know if you've seen this, but I really am into like Korean Buddhist food. And it's a lot of different vegetables. And the last time I was here, I was in this mountain called Jirisan, and I went to this like it's temple food, and they had over like
Mm.
25, 30 side dishes, and it was all vegetarian. And each one, like there was multiple of the same type of vegetables, but everything was so different and everything was so good, and like that's really what I want to go and eat when I'm out. And I forgot about that, and I wanted to go to stay at her temple, that person that was on Netflix, but they're not doing any of the food tours there right now. But
Mm.
I'm excited to have like just temple, like the rice is cooked in like this bamboo reed. Is it a reed or is it a stalk? And it's like rice with like all these beans and like different grains. It's so good. And then there's like a soybean paste soup, and then there's all these different vegetables, and they taste meaty too. It's like burdock root and all these like very hearty mountain vegetables, because there's a lot of like mountains here as well. So yeah, I'm really excited to eat a lot of that kind of foods as well. I don't even, I probably will go eat Korean barbecue, but I'm excited for all the other stuff.
Oh man, that sounds amazing. I read an essay a couple years ago about like Japanese temple, like Buddhist cuisine that sounds somewhat similar, where it is just about like preparing these ingredients like super thoughtfully and really bringing so much out of just like the most simple stuff that I feel like has become very sort of like in vogue to talk about that in food in like a larger sense, but where you talk about like, oh no, literally this is just, you're just being brought a dish of like this one root in like a little bit of broth or whatever. And it sounds mind blowing. That's really, really, that's really cool. I hope you get to do that, even if it's not literally the chef's table person.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited.
Oh, that sounds really cool. So before this sojourn, how was cooking like fitting in or not fitting into your life pre-Korea trip?
You mean during COVID?
Yeah, sure. Or even before that. I mean, it's so difficult to say now, like what everything feels like the exact same moment that's stretched on for like 8 months. So before that, during, whatever that sparks.
Yeah, I like to cook, but you know, most of the time I'm pretty running around like a crate, like just with all these different. I was driving to Santa Monica for my day job when I live in like Hollywood area, and then driving to auditions, and so. And then having like Upright Citizens Brigade in the evening. So it was really hard to find time to cook during those busy times. But sometimes on the weekends, like the thing that I like to do on the weekends, I love to go to the farmer's market and just get food. And then I'll cook something on a Sunday, something that like takes a long time to cook. And then I started cooking more during COVID, in the beginning of COVID. And so, yeah, I mean, it's part of my life. I do love to cook. It's just I don't always have the time to do it. But when I do, I like to just, I like to like make a lot of like things from scratch that I should just go and buy probably, because I'm cooking for one. And it's like, when you're cooking for one, it's like, I don't need to be like, it's more money probably to be buying all these ingredients too, you know? And I live so close to Koreatown, like a mile away. So it's just easier to go buy things sometimes. But yes, I do enjoy it.
What would be a like go-to on a Sunday, takes way too much time, but you're just enjoying the process, like thing to like project?
I really like pork belly. Oh, because I was doing keto in the beginning of COVID. And so I like to cook a lot of slow cooked pork belly. I don't like Japanese. It's like the kakuni pork or something, in like a soy sauce type of sweet glaze or whatnot. So I get the pork, and then I have to like cook it in my cast iron thingy or my Dutch oven, and you have to boil it for hours. And then you have to use like this drop lid to kind of like keep it submerged. And yeah, you just like slow cook it all day, and then you add in all the sauces and stuff like that. And I can eat pork belly for days. It's like my favorite thing. With kimchi.
Yeah,
and then, you don't need.
Isn't it the best, especially braised?
Yes. Yeah, that's probably what it is. It's just braised pork belly. Just
yum. Yeah, that sounds amazing though. I've never tried that exact application. That sounds really cool. I have to check that out. I haven't made it in a while, but for a while there, I was on a pretty good like adobo streak, like either with sometimes chicken, but then like would go, like basically the Filipino version of what you're talking about, just like braised pork belly with like a ton of like kind of sweet soy sauce and bay leaf and just a ton of peppercorns in that case.
Yes, peppercorns, onions. Yeah.
Over
and
rice?
It's so weird. Yeah, I know. Well, I wasn't eating the rice, but yes, over rice is so good. And they also put in like, in the Korean style, they also put in, some soybean paste, doenjang, in there. And then they also put in coffee grinds or coffee, like instant coffee, because it kind of takes away the pork flavor.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I was like, what? Coffee in my pork? But it works. I don't taste it. It's good.
Huh. So. And I mean, Yeah, I would not think that like taking the pork flavor away would be something that you would want to do. But I guess if it is getting like super, I don't know, there could be like you just want to bring out more of that like savory, sweet sort of like fattiness. Yum. This is making me just want to eat pork in any form. I never related harder. Two things I've related to the most on the Korean teen Instagram stories. One was when you opened one of those like clamshells of the lunch or dinner or whatever it was. And it was like, I think it was just bulgogi, and you were just so excited to see pork. You were just like, oh, you're like, I think it's pork, but you clearly didn't want to get too excited. And then you're like, it's pork.
Yes.
It's like, okay. I very much relate to that as a pork enthusiast.
Oh, nice.
And then the other thing I related to the most was there was a night when like the announcements came on, but they hadn't brought dinner yet. And so you were like, they had just moved your room. And so you were like concerned that they had forgotten because they were like, maybe they don't know I'm here because I moved. I had to move rooms because my air conditioning was broken. And I feel so palpably, I have like such a predilection to feel like abandoned or forgotten about that I'll just go like right there. Like back when restaurants, like eating in restaurants was more of a thing, like Haley could tell you like every other time it's just like, oh wait, but that table, but they were here after us, and why are they getting their food? And she's like, they didn't forget about us. They're going to bring the food.
I'm like that too. I'm like, wait, why are they getting their food before us? We ordered it first. I'm always about get your order in quick. You have to know what you want before you sit down. Get your order in quick, please, because we got to beat all these other people. We got to eat now. So I totally get that.
Where it's like, I like it. Why am I so eager for it to be over? Why do I want to like fast forward through the experience? But I totally feel that way because I'm just like, they'll have, for some reason, there's something about me that they're just going to forget. They're going to be like, that guy doesn't even want his food, actually. Never mind. So the idea of being in a like, quarantine hotel where we're all just anonymous behind these doors. And it's like, am I going to be forgotten? Are they going to forget to tell me my 14 days is up? Like what's happening?
Yeah, I know. Like before they used to call me every day, and now they don't call me anymore. And it makes me so sad. And I'm like, do they not care? Like they don't care how I'm doing mentally. Like it's really weird. So it's been like 3-4 days without anyone calling me. And I'm just like, and so I was telling my friend, I was like, they're not calling me anymore. And she's like, well, there's all these new people coming in. So they kind of have to check on them and getting them settled in. Cause now I'm like in a groove, so they don't have to worry about me. But still makes me still so sad.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Also, maybe they were just like, that's the outside lady. We don't call her anymore. She always says she wants to go outside, and then we feel too bad.
Oh, right.
It's like too tough.
But I say it very jokingly, and I'm speaking to them in Korean, and like, so I feel like they're my friends, but I don't think they're my friends because I'm always like, "What's your name?" And they'll be like, "Oh, my name is, whatever," and I'll be like, "Oh, hey," and like I always ask for them next. I always will ask for who I have been talking to. It's just because there's some sort of like relation there. Then you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And then the people who are working are like, "She's not here. What do you need? You could just ask me," and I'll be like, "Oh, okay." And then I'll be like, well, what's your name? And then I'll ask for them next time. I just need a friend in here. So
yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's nice. I think that's a nice way to bring a little bit more of a human face to the whole thing and just try to be like, look, well, this is a weird situation. Everybody's just doing their best. So I'm just trying to be nice to the like anonymous voice on the other end of the phone.
Yeah.
I think but it is very like I was, the other night when Haley and I were literally just talking about like, oh yeah, Susan's doing this thing and whatever. We were just talking about like, why isn't the US doing something like this? Like, why isn't there, because so many of these countries, like not only is it like, oh, you have to quarantine once you actually get there, which is totally reasonable. And I'm sure once you actually come back to the States and you just get to go like directly from the airport to In-N-Out Burger, it'll feel like, on the one hand, this is great. But on the other hand, this feels like weird that I can just do this. Yeah. Like, I was just working myself up into a lather of like, why can't we do this? And then all the restaurants that are going to go out of business otherwise can make the food for the people in quarantine because they're traveling, or centralized quarantine because they've been exposed or whatever. And I just think it's like, I don't know what it is. If it's just like, we don't like, we just have this weird American, not weird, it just, I guess, is like a part of, I don't know, like it's also politicized. It's tough to pull out, like, is there something essential about America where we just we'd feel like, no way, they're going to like stamp a barcode on me or something. Like, I don't like, versus the fact that it's like incredibly politicized and Trump and what's unique to this whole moment and everything. Like, I genuinely don't know. Like, I don't know if it would work here, but I'm just like, it just bums me out as somebody who, like, on the one hand, obviously everything about it is so incredibly sad and so many people are dying that don't have to, but then also just in terms of like, we're America. Don't we want to like solve big problems? Like, you know, there is a part of me that feels like a dad that's like, we went to the moon, damn it. Like, we can get some hotels together. I don't know. It's very, again, there's not a question here. There's just like, there's just, I think, rage and disappointment, I think, mostly.
I think like when I was thinking about it too, and taking all the politics aside, I think just in terms of like, there's only one international airport in Korea. I think it's Incheon. So it's a little easier to probably implement this with one airport. So everything is kind of streamlined. But America's so huge, you know, and there's so many different airports. So it's a lot. It's to probably implement something like this would be a lot of planning and work that would have had to have happened maybe before, you know. So, and the reason why Korea set up for success is because when the H1N1 virus broke out a couple years ago, or whenever that happened, Korea started planning for the next pandemic at that point. So they had all these tests ready to go, so that when it happened, they would, you know, be ready for it. So there was pre-planning in that aspect. It's a smaller country. There's only one international airport, and also I think just like. I think it's like kind of like mentality of Asian cultures. Like, I mean, I was born in the States, and so I have very like an American mentality. So I'm not always like Asian in that aspect, but you know, there's like it's a mindset of like the collective versus the individual, you know? And I think having that mindset of like, oh, we got to take care of other people. And, you know, people in Korea were wearing masks way before we had to wear masks. You know, whenever they're feeling a little sick, they wear masks to prevent anyone else from getting sick. So it's a lot of like looking out for the other people, which I don't think is as much of a, you know, mentality in the States. It's very like individualism or whatnot. So I don't know. I was wondering that too. I mean, all the government and politics stuff aside, it's America's so vast, and I don't know. It's so big. There's so many airports, and I don't know how they would do all that. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, I was thinking about it earlier when you were talking about like this sort of, you know, if somebody brings, you know, COVID to that island, they're going to be shamed on the news. Whereas here, you would imagine that like, then if somebody did that and then they got shamed, that they would suddenly become like a folk hero to like conservatives or something. And they would have a Patreon of like, I'm the person who bravely brought COVID to this island. Right. And it just like, I don't know, you know, like you hear that a lot because there's just so much like where, you know, different things that we're now supposed to do and seem pretty reasonable to me, but I understand kind of was the response or the communication was very garbled at the beginning about what you were and weren't supposed to do because we didn't really know. But then like you would hear a lot, or you do hear a lot now of like, well, but shaming doesn't work. Don't like shame people for not doing this or not doing that. And then a little bit you're like, but doesn't it work? It's shame. Like I was raised Catholic, like shame, I'm not saying it is perfect. And it obviously creates a lot of very unfortunate, or can create a lot of very unfortunate side effects, but you're a little bit like, yeah, but can't we just weaponize a little bit of shame? You know what I mean? Like I genuinely don't know. I'm sure there's social science behind how it works or how it doesn't, or side effects to it that we don't fully understand. But I do think you're right that it just seems like, yeah, different cultures are going to react to things differently. And I don't know. I'll be very curious to see what your experience is like once you're out, like how different it might feel being out and about, if it'll feel similar, or if everybody will be like, oh, we only had like 50 cases here last week in the entire country. So we're like hanging out and doing stuff. I don't know. That'll be really, really interesting to see. Anything else on your to-do list besides going to the island and eating? Are there any other things you're like, I got to do this because I can and I'm not allowed to in LA?
I mean, I didn't come here to really like do anything too crazy. I just wanted to like get away and just be at one with nature. So, yeah, I'm going to go to Busan probably and just chill. So yeah, not too many huge plans. Yeah, but we'll
sense.
see how it is. Everyone is still wearing masks. Which is great. You know, even on Jeju Island where there are no cases, everyone there is still wearing masks. So I just wanted to like go to the Korean spa because I miss going to that in LA. I would go like pretty often, but even there, people are wearing masks inside, like the steam room. But it's probably not safe to go because, you know, so I might not go and do that. So who knows? We'll see.
Well, on the plus side, I feel like I've heard that it genuinely like isn't as easily transmissible through humidity. So maybe a steam room would be
really?
like the most safe place, but that in itself sounds counterintuitive. It sounds wrong coming out of my mouth.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So, Susan, final question. If there was anything at all in the world that either something that you like ate all the time growing up or that you like, you know, something that you've had over the years or as a grown up that you've loved or in a restaurant, something that you have never cooked before that you can't cook right now that you could just snap your fingers and magically know how to make perfectly, what would it be?
To cook, yeah, it would probably be that, that raw crab thing I was talking about.
Yes.
That because there's like a spicy version and like a soy sauce version, and that's it's just a little difficult to make. So, I don't really. My aunt makes it really good, and I've tried to have her teach me, but it's really hard. It's a lot of ingredients that I don't know what it is. Like I don't know what these like plum extracts, and I don't know which one to get. It's really confusing when I go into the Korean market to get these ingredients. So I haven't really been able to do that. So I would love that because I grew up eating that and it's like my favorite thing. You should go try it. I'll recommend you a good place in LA that has it.
Please do. Yeah, I would really, really like to. It almost sounds vaguely like ceviche to me or something. You know what I mean? But like, but not acidic, but you know, like savory instead of acidic.
Some Thai restaurants have it. They have it when the papaya salad. So it's kind of like that. They'll have like this raw blue crab with papaya salad. And so that's the only other place where I've seen them do raw blue crab. But Master Ha in LA, they have it and it's really good there.
Shout out to Master Ha. Okay, good to know. I can't wait to try it. That sounds so. It's
like ice cream. Oh, so good.
Ooh. So was your aunt predominantly the person that was cooking a lot when you
were
growing up?
my mom cooks a lot, and she like will braise things for days. Like she will cook bone soup, there's a soup packaged soup that I like a lot, and it's just like this Korean bone broth soup, and my mom would cook her bone broth soup for days, and yeah, so my mom's a pretty good cook.
That's awesome. Is she just throwing in like what kind of bones is she throwing in there, and what kind of other stuff?
It's really just bones. It's I don't know what kind of bones they use, but like they sell them at the Korean market. I think I've never made. That's one thing I also haven't made is bone soup myself. And for like cow, I think it's cow bones. I make like chicken stocks and stuff like that, but there are like. Oh, I also, yeah, sorry, I'm like all over the place. There's oxtails. I will make those. I make oxtail broth at home all the time. But my mom just gets like these, like, I think it's like knees and like, I don't know. It doesn't sound too lovely, but it's the bones were all like, like the bone, how people go get bone marrow at like fancy restaurants. So the bone marrow comes out of these bones, all these like collagen and like tendon type things come out of there. And it's like this weird chunky, collagen-y type of stuff, and it's I don't know why I love that stuff. I love like mushy, weird. It's like, is this fat? Is this collagen? I don't know. I don't care. I love it. It's a lot of that.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. Anytime that I've ever made a broth or a stock and then it's done and I put it in the fridge, when I take it out again and I open it up and it's just like Jello, that's when I know like, okay, I got the best of the bones.
Right,
you know?
right.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's the best. I mean, it sounds like your mom was super ahead of the broth craze.
Yeah, I know. Everyone's into this whole bone broth. We've been having that forever. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, so how many days left now?
I think 4 Friday. Okay, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, like 4. 4. Oh my God. 4
And
more
then
days.
do you know what happens? Like what happens when they like, this feels like a weird like sci-fi novel or like YA fiction, like YA sci-fi novel. Like, do you know what happens to like those that get to go out? Like, how does that work? Is there like a graduation ceremony? Like, are they just like, okay, there you go? Like, how do you know?
So I'm kind of confused myself. October 27th is my last day, Tuesday. So you can get picked up actually midnight on October 27th if a friend or a family member picks you up. So you can get picked up anytime after midnight. So I'm trying to find somebody to pick me up right now because I want to get out of here at midnight. But then I also was like, well, do I just want to sleep that night and just leave that next morning on the 20, like at 7 a.m. So at 7 a.m., a bus will take you to this railroad station, which will be like the hub that you can take to get anywhere you need to go. So at 7 a.m. you can do that. But I don't want to do that. I want someone to pick me up. Please. Do you know anyone?
You want the full, like, we're breaking out of here experience.
Yes. Last night, and the only reason why I started feeling that is because last night I had a dream that I was escaping this place and they were coming after me. And then I like ran into this little room and I was like, oh, I think I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here as soon as possible. So now I'm looking into that midnight option. And my only friend lives like 5 hours away. I'm like, please, I'll get us a hotel that night and then I'll drive back with you. Like, I'll give you money, anything. Please get me out of here.
You're like the in Korea version of when people come to visit in LA, like a friend from out of town, and you're like, oh, they're like, we're in LA, and you're like, where are you staying? And they're like, we're in like Orange County, and you're like, okay,
yeah.
See you next time.
Yeah. Not gonna happen.
Well, I hope you get the dream. I hope you get the midnight ride out of the Incheon Airport Hotel government facility. I hope this happens for you. We're all rooting for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Have a great rest of your quarantine, and have the best time when you're out. I can't wait to see, and nor can we all wait to see what you get up to. And thanks for taking the time to do this, Susan. It was super fun, super interesting, and I really enjoyed it. I hope you had a good time too.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, that is it. That is all for this week's episode of Stay for Dinner. Thank you so much to my guest, Susan Song. And I just checked on Instagram, and Susan is officially out of Korean Teen. It is very exciting. Please follow her on Instagram at Sujang012. That is SUJJANG012. And also follow her food-centric dining Instagram, Eat Along with Susan Song on Instagram. She's the best. Thank you so much for joining me. Susan, thank you so much for joining me, you, the listener. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and subscribe wherever you do that for podcasts. It really helps people find the show, and that in turn helps there be more show. My intro music is July 4th, 2004 by the amazing Jason Anderson. My interstitial music is by Advanced Bass, the amazing Owen Ashworth. Advanced Bass, not Advanced Bass, although he is very advanced. And my podcast art is by Sarah Beacon. That is Becan. I've written a couple of novels, The Boy Who Couldn't Sleep and Never Had To, and Crap Kingdom. Buy them from your local independent book retailer. Do you hear cats eating dinner in the background? If so, that is what you're hearing. And I think that's it. Have a good week, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.